but that's a concern for not only this, but any other company that's going to decentralize. This is just one of the first that's taken what was a traditional structure and decided to decentralize. Mostly what we've seen in DAOs is going the other direction, where they start decentralized, then they launch a token and have a treasury and say, okay, now we have to figure out how to manage all this. This is a company that has money, has a treasury, and then is going the other direction. Hi, welcome to the Interaxis channel and Interaxis.io. Today we want to talk about something that is topical, that has happened, but how that pertains to how companies are going to be built in the future. It's something that we've been talking about for a while, the idea of what new companies are going to look like, or what companies of the future are going to look like. And now we get this opportunity with a company called ShapeShift to talk a little bit about a company that was formed, in the very traditional sense, although it's crypto related, it's a crypto exchange, in the very traditional sense, that is now making the conscious decision to decentralize, and what that means, and where we see that going in the future. Some of this is our opinion, and some of this is just thoughts on what we think might happen to companies of the future based on what we've seen, in the last 6 months or so of DAOs and other types of companies. So we've talked in the past about DAOs and how they've grown up from being a community to launching a token to raising money to eventually launching their token to those community members, those that help them grow. Some that are selling their minting a token and selling it early on in exchange for grants or for fundraising or crowdfunding or something. What we have here in ShapeShift is a company that's going the opposite direction. Not in a bad way, the opposite direction, in that ShapeShift was formed as a company and built. Originally it was a platform that allowed you through a wallet to be able to change. It was one of the first that allowed you to change from one cryptocurrency to another, and then created an exchange, and has always been forward thinking. Whereas Erik Voorhees is one of the OGs of Bitcoin originally. He has progressed and been really at the forefront of what cryptocurrency and what decentralized finance and decentralization really should be about. And it should be about decentralizing. It should be about looking at decentralized finance and cross-chain opportunities. They were the first to incorporate Thorchain so that you could actually natively exchange tokens and natively have liquidity across different chains, and they incorporated that into ShapeShift. So they've really been at the forefront here. So what is happening with ShapeShift is they've made a decision again to decentralize. And what is that meaning in their terms? First of all, because you have two ways that it's decentralizing. First, you have the code, right, which is the actual exchange technology that is, and in addition, they actually own a wallet company, a wallet called KeepKey. They own Portis, which is a Web3 wallet. So there's all sorts of the other technologies. What they're doing is making that all open source. And what that means is anyone can come essentially use the code, build on top of it, build something for it, build APIs to it, connect their network or their protocol or their app to it, and utilize this code. So that's one part of decentralization. The other part, though, is the governance. And that's the part that's a little bit more interesting to us, because what's happening is they're dismantling kind of the traditional hierarchy of CEO, president, executive team, board, and all that, and saying we're going to decentralize. And what we're going to do is we're going to give all those that have helped us, that have utilized our exchange or utilized Thorchain or utilized some of the protocols that we have on our network, or use the KeepKey wallet. Any of those people are able to get Fox tokens airdrop to them. And these Fox tokens in the past have been used to lower or get rid of fees when using the ShapeShift exchange, but now they're going to be utilized for governance as well. So all these Fox token holders can now participate in the governance. But what that really means is now you're going to have governance via a DAO. So people are going to be able to create proposals, vote on proposals, and the good part about that is, again, you go along with this ethos of crypto and decentralization. The tough part is now you have a bunch of people who have very, very different motives, and they are going to get to create proposals and vote on them, and you can see, and we've seen in other protocols where it's essentially become almost like a popularity contest, where someone will propose something, get their friends who are also token holders to vote on it, and they can drive the direction of a protocol or drive the direction of a project that way by accumulating a bunch of the tokens. And that's just something in a decentralized world that you have to live with. You have to go, look, I'm going to leave this up to the community. If the community decides to go that way, that's the direction we go, and that's where ShapeShift has decided to go. So one of the tough parts in our minds about governance going that direction is now you do have a bunch of people who are not used to voting on the direction of a company and not used to running the direction of a company. And while it's nice to be in this decentralized fashion, it's nice to think we're going to go to the wisdom of the crowds and get the community to help us. What you also lack in that a lot of times is the vision of an owner or of a founder or of a small group, a small team that is driving the vision and kind of getting everyone on board. So think of Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Bill Gates or someone who has driven a company because really of their vision, and then has coached everyone and brought everyone along. And that's a little bit of what you might miss in some of these decentralized projects. What you also miss is some of the idea of how you actually run a company, right? Because now if you have a bunch of token holders, they might not be very versed in how we run a company, how we spend our treasury and everything. So you have to deal with treasury management. This is managing the funds that are sitting there within the DAO. And we've talked about treasury management and how different it's going to look in the near and distant future. So now you have a bunch of folks that have Fox tokens that maybe don't fully understand how to manage this and how to spend money. Not saying that is definitely going to happen, but that's a concern for not only this, but any other company that's going to decentralize. This is just one of the first that's taken what was a traditional structure and decided to decentralize. Mostly what we've seen in DAOs is going the other direction, where they start decentralized, then they launch a token and have a treasury and say, okay, now we have to figure out how to manage all this. This is a company that has money, has a treasury, and then is going the other direction. Now the good part is, I'll get to that in a moment, but from a governance perspective, the other issue that we can see potentially happening with this and any other DAO structure is the different time horizons, right? Because these Fox token holders, those that want to participate in the governance, they have a different time horizon than the company did or than the original founders did. So I might have Fox tokens to go, man, it would be really great if we went and raised a whole bunch of money for the treasury, because then the value of my Fox tokens would triple, and then I can sell them and I can go on vacation. So that's what I want to vote for, because I'm going to have a super short time horizon. Whereas those that started it, had the vision, the small group that might have the vision, they might be looking out farther and going, look, this is going to be bad for us. Now they get to argue that. They get to have those discussions within the community, within the discourse, or wherever they're going to have those discussions, and plead their case. But now what you've done is you've allowed those that might have different time horizons and different goals to be part of that process. And again, as we've seen, not only in DAOs, but even as we've seen in traditional markets, as we've seen in things like GameStop and AMC, you get enough people together in a community that all have one goal, and that could be extremely short term, and they can actually drive things that direction. And again, with any of these decentralized companies, decentralized organizations, we just have to live with that. So that could be one issue. Now, what ShapeShift is doing in particular, which of course is a really good thing, is they're easing into it. There's a roadmap. It's not like they're just 100% open source code, open source governance day one. They've actually set up a separate foundation to help with the transition from centralized to decentralized, and it's something that's going to take place over time, starting with the Fox airdrop, and then moving on to more and more governance, and having this foundation help. At some point, this token can actually accrue value, because they can at any point decide on the exchange, we're going to start charging fees and sending some of that fee to the Fox token holders, right? And that's probably something that the Fox token holders will have to vote on and decide, is that good for the community? So what we've seen so far, again, is DAOs that start decentralized and end up having a community, launching a token, figuring out their direction. This is going the opposite way, so it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out, how this happens, because now we're going from a centralized traditional corporation to a decentralized entity with decentralized code, with decentralized governance. So it'll be really interesting to see if this works, and then if other companies are going to try this, other companies are going to look to this in the future. And look, there are going to be some privately held companies that are going to have to look at the structure in the near future and say, look, maybe we're better off building a community rather than trying to silo and get someone to pay for what we do. Maybe we're better off looking at a decentralized option, and that's something that they're going to have to go through. And that's something that people who are understanding of DAOs and DeFi and crypto are going to be honestly advising and consulting with private companies about, is should we look at decentralizing? Should we look at that as an option for ourselves to continue a product or a service we have that's really good, but help us to gain value? Because now the push is more towards how can we grow value in our community and therefore the ownership that we built, versus how can I try to make as much profit as I can this year. So again, really interesting case here with ShapeShift. Really look forward to seeing how it goes. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you'll subscribe. Hope you'll visit us on Twitter @InterAxis8. We'll see you in the next video.